Welcome to the Talk Sox podcast. I'm Alex, and as always, I'm joined by Adam and Maddie. What's up, guys?
Not much. What's going on?
You guys just enjoying this off day where the Red Sox definitely didn't play baseball?
Happy AAPI month.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess we should set the scene that we are recording Monday night, and the game just went final. 14-2. The Red Sox lost to the Tigers.
What?
I know you could have sworn it was an off day, but no, they actually played today. Very surprising. And I have not watched an inning of baseball for the last week or so. So this is going to be a real explain to Adam what's going on kind of episode.
Okay.
And I'm excited to hear it because it's my understanding that things have been going very well, right?
Things have been happening.
Devers was the AL player of the week for last week, I saw. So I assume that means that everything's going great.
Yeah. You've missed nothing. Triston Casas has his knee. Romy Gonzalez does not have a major thigh contusion. And Rafael Devers does not want to punch Craig Breslow.
So I guess, we didn't record last week, and so we can start with when I did actually watch baseball, which did include Triston Casas' injury. So the latest on that is that he's injured for the year.
Probably longer.
So what is the actual prognosis? Are we thinking that he'll be ready for the start of next season, or is that not what we're hearing?
Maddie, since you're currently mourning Casas, do you want to run point on this? And I'll chime in occasionally.
So, he was running to first. I think it was on May 3rd, that Saturday game versus the Twins, where
I think it was the Friday night game.
Friday night game. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was. I'm looking at the calendar with the schedule. That was the AAPI celebration night. So shout out to the Red Sox for hosting that. And he just collided with the Twins first baseman, then landed weird, and then he had to be wheeled off the field. It was really sad.
You could tell by his face that something bad, really bad, had happened. For him to be emotionless for that amount of time.
Yeah, that
just sort of
was telling.
He just sort of looked pissed to me, not quite emotionless, but I don't know.
Once he was on the cart, he was furious.
Yeah, he
stood there with his arms crossed.
So I've had patella injuries. They're not fun. I'm sure my patella injuries weren't as bad as his are because I recovered quicker than a full year. But so he's thinking at least out until partway through next season. Is that what the latest is?
I think that with recovery time, rehab time, I think we're probably looking at June at the earliest that we could even start thinking about him coming back. I wouldn't be shocked to see it post All-Star break. I've debated on this really since last week. I think that there's a very real chance that we have seen Triston Casas play his last inning of Red Sox baseball. I don't see them cutting bait with him right now. But when we talked about it on the last episode, he seems to be not a super popular guy in the clubhouse. Cora seems to be out on him. I think that we might be looking at a DFA situation come next season. We were all kind of hoping that maybe he would get back to being, 23, second half 23 Casas, and could be part of a trade package maybe just to kind of recoup some of that value. But I think right now he's a throw-in piece, and I don't think that we will see Triston Casas ever play baseball for the Boston Red Sox again.
You're nodding, Maddie. You kind of agree with this?
Yeah, I mean, I also think, possibly permanently out of the sport.
Agreed. Yeah, I debate on whether or not to go there. I think this could be career ending with just how powerful he is, how big he is. I don't see any way this recovery is easy.
And the sad thing was he seemed to be returning to form just before his injury.
Yeah.
He had a 250, 400 slash line before before he went out in his last 7 games. And it's just really sad to see.
Yeah. I think it was somebody wrote into probably Carabas on Section 10 and said that the company that he works for or used to work for makes the like surgery tools for this surgery. And he said that they look, quote, medieval in the type of equipment that has to be used to get everything reattached. And so apparently this surgery was tough anyway. Not that any surgery is easy, but ACL and stuff, they can do fairly minor surgery now for it, minor for what it is. But, I'm sure his leg was probably flayed open pretty good. And, we're talking probably 6 weeks before he can really even start to do anything with it. So the incision can heal. And, we hope that there's no infection that sets in or anything like that, which would just delay everything. But Maddie, I'm right there with you. I think that there's a very real chance that Triston Casas does not play professional baseball again.
So I mean, that is sad, but as far as the Red Sox go, we had already had questions about the depth of first base with his, slow start. And it's really kind of interesting that coming into the season, the two places where the Red Sox seem to be thinnest were catcher and first base, and both of those have been tested pretty early here. Catcher, somehow Narvaez has really stepped up and been as good, if not better, than Wong was showing himself to be early in the season.
Yep.
That cannot be said for anybody who's currently playing first base for the Red Sox. What are we going to see for first base for, let's say, like the next couple of weeks and then maybe for the rest of the season?
Do we have a timeline on Romy? Romy just hit the IL after a play that looked eerily similar to the Casas play. I think, jumping back to Casas for a second, the guy who was covering first incorrectly. He had his foot in the middle of the bag. But when you slow down that run, Casas's knee goes before he clips that guy's foot. So I don't think that there's any blame to be put on that guy. I've seen that on social media sites, and he was covering the bag incorrectly, and that's fundamentals. And at the major league, you should know how to cover the bag. But he's also not a first baseman. He's been converted into that and is still trying to learn the position kind of on the fly, much like a little teaser. There is a push from the organization to have somebody else do. So no fault to him for the injury, because I think that Casas' knee went before he clipped his foot. But the Romy injury, I thought it was the exact same play. When Romy went down, I popped up in the Slack group and I was like, we have to trade tonight for somebody. Like, there's nobody else to play first base for the Red Sox.
It's a real diss to Abraham Toro.
Yeah. I mean, sorry about it. And he hit a home run today. I thought that the Red Sox probably should have used that swing in their final score graphic, but it was Will Hero Abreu, which he hit a home run too. But you would think that they would at least give the nod to Abraham Toro, who won't be with the big league club for a super long time, probably. But Romy collision at first, gets his thigh kind of in the hip of the guy covering the bag, and legitimately thought that he blew his knee out as well, with almost a week to the day. Luckily, it's a thigh contusion, but last I saw, I don't know if there's a timeline to return to action.
So there has been an update, according to the Red Sox website, which was updated today. Manager Alex Cora thinks Gonzalez will miss the minimum amount of time, which would put him back on the roster on May 18th for the finale of the 3-game series against the Braves. So
not awful.
Looking good.
And to be honest, like I'd be fine with Romy manning first base for a while. He's proven to hit lefties and righties pretty well. He's got a little speed. His first base instincts aren't necessarily the greatest, but if that's what we have to do to get to, say, the middle of June, then I'm okay with that. But in my opinion, we've really got to make a trade. I think that's really the only, without, and we'll talk about Devers here in a minute, but without forcing Devers into another position, which I think is possible, you've got to make a trade. The downside of that is that we are in the middle of May, and very few teams with starting caliber first basemen are going to be willing to trade those first basemen right now. I mean, I can't even tell you who plays first for the Marlins or the White Sox. Like, those would be the two teams that we would be looking at. The Rockies, who offer nothing in terms of major league ready talent. Those would be the three teams I think that you would talk to. But
I guess
Garrett Cooper's probably out there somewhere.
Reunion. I guess the guy that I had briefly thought of was Nathaniel Lowe from the Washington, who currently plays for the Washington Nationals, but had been a Rangers for a while, a Rangers guy for a while.
I don't think he would be too awfully expensive.
Probably, I would assume not. I'm just pulling up his stats right now. And
the thing is anybody is going to try to take advantage of the situation because they know that the team is desperate.
Yeah. I mean, right now he's hitting, he has a 242 batting average, OPS of 746. So not, he's not killing it or anything, but he,
Adam's gone. He went away.
Okay.
Okay, are you back? Cool.
I believe I'm back. That was great. Yeah. So Nathaniel Lowe has not been killing it, but we, he has played first. So that's probably what's important, I would assume, at this point.
I think that the team needs to stay far away from Anthony Rizzo. That ship has sailed.
Yeah, I've heard, I did, see something about that today, and I don't know where that's coming from or why that's being floated. I'm not sure why that would be a good idea.
He seems very content with being a dad, and I think that the baseball should let him just be a dad. I don't think that he has a spot in this sport anymore. And I've always liked Rizzo, but he's done.
But I mean, the Red Sox at one point at least attempted to sign Rizzo or had some interest in Rizzo, and Rizzo made it pretty clear that he was not interested in the Red Sox. He still kind of harbored some bad feelings because of them trading him, like before he even made the major leagues, kind of thing.
When he was a prospect.
Yeah. So I don't really see it happening from either side. I don't know why the want would be there.
No.
If the Brewers keep playing, I don't know, mediocre ball, I think Rhys Hoskins would be a great acquisition.
Yeah, I think that's a smart play.
Oh, yeah. So the Talk Sox host that's from Philly area thinks that Rhys Hoskins would be fun.
Well, I would have seen personal bias aside. He's cut his strikeout rate a lot this year. It's down to 22.5%. And he's playing above average ball now. His weighted runs created plus is 126. And he's just a great clubhouse guy. And I think the team would need that now. I mean, that's jumping a little ahead, I guess, into the Devers drama, but yeah, I love him.
I mean, I think it's worth it to, maybe not directly jump to the Devers drama, but like, what is our thought of how the clubhouse is doing right now?
Well, if you ask Devers, Devers is very happy with the clubhouse, or at least that was his last quote about it. Since then, it has come out that at least one veteran team member has told him to just, quote, quit talking. And there's some speculation on who that could be. I think that he and Cora still get along, but I think that he has made it pretty clear that he is out on Craig Breslow. He has, so I don't know if you guys have noticed before, but when Alex Cora is not happy with somebody, he speaks about them in terms of their job title or their position. And he doesn't call them by name. The GM, the general manager, he never called him Heim, or rarely called him Heim. He was always, oh, that's the president of baseball operations. That's the GM. Devers did that to Breslow during that quote-filled quick little interview. The GM needs to learn to do his job. The GM is the one who asked me to play first. He knows Craig Breslow's name. I've gone back and forth on this about whether, much like the comments before the season when he was asked about the switch to DH, if they've been blown out of proportion and it's just become like a media frenzy. I think that there is some validity to the kind of uproar around these comments, because up until last year when Devers made like the whole like, oh, everybody knows what we need to get better comment in spring training, Devers had been pretty quiet. He was never one to talk. Usually if the camera showed up before he wasn't here, Xander was the one who would step kind of in front of Devers and kind of be his shield. Well, Xander's not here anymore, and so Devers is kind of open season, and it so far hasn't gone swimmingly. And so I think that when push comes to shove, if the team needs / tells Devers he's going to play first base, which I think was the conversation that John Henry had with him when he flew to Kansas City. I don't think it was a, hey man, let's all figure out how to get along. It was very much a, hey, I'm paying you $300 million, and if you're going to play first, that's what you're going to do. I think that this could end very badly for the Red Sox and Rafael Devers. I don't think that a trade request is too far out of the realm of possibility right now. It came out after the whole DH thing that he considered asking for a trade, which I think is crap. That's clickbaity headlines. I think that we may get a little more than considered asking for a trade. I've read that the Mets have already sniffed around a little bit to see.
For why?
That's a great question. But it creates more holes than anything if you deal Devers. So I don't see them dealing Devers. I think that in the grand scheme of things, this will blow over. But if it keeps festering, then I think we could have a problem on our hands. Now, if he keeps playing out of his mind like he has been, they're not going to trade him, even if he asks, at least until the offseason. But I mean, Rafael Devers is the lone member of the 2018 World Series championship team. And I think that he deserves a little more respect than what's been paid to him. I think that he ultimately needed a DH. That third base needs to be Alex Bregman's. But while I think he could play first, I think that if you actually told him to put his glove away like he said you did and to just focus on hitting, then maybe let him keep the glove put away for at least a season. And like he said, go to the market, find somebody, swing a deal for somebody that you might have to overpay for, or turn one of your multiple prospects into a first baseman for a season. But I don't think that shuffling Devers to another position in May is the answer to the problem right
now. I guess I don't think it's an answer to put him at first, because I don't think he will offer any type of defensive upgrade over what we're currently putting at first. There's no, he doesn't have a history there. I did manage to listen to something where Lou Merloni was talking about this, and I think it was immediately in the wake of the Casas injury, and he was saying that, Devers has good hands, could probably handle first, but he's never played there. So there, does
Lou
Connor
has been
Long
kind of
have
leading this charge, the Devers to first charge. Lou has been kind of the biggest Red Sox personality on leading that. And I think Devers could play first, but even he said, he's like, I'm not a quick learner. Like, it's going to take me a while to get used to playing there. So if he starts taking grounders now, could we see him at first by June, middle of June? Probably. But like you said, Adam, I think that's very valid. Does he offer more at first than Romy Gonzalez? No. Now it is a way to get Masataka Yoshida back in the lineup, provided that that's something that they want to do. I don't think that it is. But I think that would be their best lineup, sans calling up Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also a possibility of, putting, you could put Connor Wong at first, who also has quote unquote good hands, certainly used to scooping balls out of the dirt. Put him at first, have Narvaez behind the plate. Mm-hmm. That also kind of, solves a little bit of an issue, getting a defensive catcher behind the plate and keeping Wong's bat in the lineup.
It allows you to call up Yasmani Grandal. I can't believe you forgot that part.
Finally. And do we know? I mean, Yasmani, I feel like maybe I'm wrong about this, but I thought that he's played first before in his career. So, I mean, maybe we could have, Yasmani at first. Never know. But I mean, is there any world where you see one of the prospects that people are, trying to get up to the majors play first?
Nope. And that's fine. I would rather see you force Trevor Story into a first baseman role and call up Marcelo to play shortstop than definitely not Roman Anthony. Marcelo could probably do it, but it's a waste of, I mean, he is pretty good on defense. So it's a waste of his defensive abilities. I think that if you're calling anyone up, even though he's in Double A, it almost has to be Blaze Jordan. Sogard's fine. Blaze Jordan has had kind of a turnaround season so far. He's played a lot better than he has so far in his major league career. And I think that realistically, he's going to give you what Toro will give you. He may not be as much of an offensive threat as Toro is, but until today, Toro was fairly middling on the offensive side of the ball. So I don't know, try him. At Double A, he is very good at working counts. They shifted him over to first base a couple years ago from his natural third base, and he took to it very quickly. Maybe getting him into the majors allows him to find that power stroke again, because that's really the one thing that's been missing. He's been hitting for average over power, and maybe getting him into the majors gives him that boost of confidence again, and he finds that power bat. But there's not a whole lot of answers in the system.
So is there, I don't know, like, we're assuming that Casas, like, if he does come back, he's coming back, sometime in 2026. If he comes back, I mean, is there any chance that he is ever seen as the first baseman of the future again for the Red Sox, or first baseman of the current
I don't think so.
You think it's just like burned bridges, or you think it's just that these 2 injuries that he's had the past 2 years have just really made them sour on him?
You're looking at 2 catastrophic injuries.
Yeah.
Arguably, the rib injury could have kept him out of the game for the rest of his life. And I think that the chance of that injury reoccurring is pretty high with just how he swings. And I think that if that does happen again, then we are looking at a career-ending cartilage break for him. And Maddie, I think it was you when we were talking about it right after the injury, put in our Slack channel that, when you're trying to overcompensate for injuries to your core, you put a lot more stress on your legs. And with him being just the hulking human that he is, like his legs were under quite a bit of stress anyway. And so now he's trying to overcompensate for his core injury, and his knee couldn't take it. It wouldn't shock me if he does come back, if he blows his other knee out at some point. Because he's a lefty and that's your lead foot. And that's typically the foot that he stretches with. So I was very surprised that it wasn't the foot or the knee that went. I don't see many scenarios where Triston Casas will ever be viewed as, oh, he's just going to play first base for us again. I think that if that's the case, then the Red Sox are in a very bad situation.
Okay. I mean, so what you guys are saying, I think, makes me believe that the Red Sox need to trade for a first baseman and trade for a first baseman who's not just a stopgap, because it doesn't seem like the Red Sox have any type of first base depth in the system or someone doesn't seem to have any first baseman in the system or have any type of
I'm back.
Perfect. We didn't miss a beat, trust me. They don't really have any first basemen in the system, and it's not likely that they're going to convert somebody to first. So you're probably talking about, like, Nathaniel Lowe could be a stopgap, but he's not somebody who I think you're going to try to build around or have for multiple years. So this is really like if only Vlad.
So what I was trying to do when I accidentally left the podcast was I was trying to look at the free agents for next season to see who might be out there to, see who might be a little more than a stopgap. So we've got Pete Alonso, who has an opt-out, Josh Naylor, Paul Goldschmidt, Reese Hoskins, that's a mutual option, Carlos Santana, Justin Turner, Josh Bell, Lamont Wade Jr., Wilmer Flores, Donovan Solano, Ty France, and Connor Joe are your first base free agent options in 2026.
There's this Japanese player. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of him. Munetaka Murakami is expected to be posted by his. Who does he play for? The Tokyo Swallows. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Big team. So, I mean, that could be an option.
Let's circle back to Masataka Yoshida to have this conversation, though.
Okay. All the paths lead back to Masa.
It always does. Our high pants king. Do you think that the way the organization has treated Masataka Yoshida will be a negative impact on Japanese players wanting to come to the majors?
I mean, of course it has to be, because, there's always this talk of, teams trotting out their Japanese players to, meet with whoever the latest is going to be. And, you heard about Yu Darvish, meeting with, trying to meet with players when, the Padres were courting people. And, you just have to think that if there's any type of relationship or communication between Yoshida and anyone back in Japan, I mean, certainly if they give Yoshida a call, just say like, oh, what should I be thinking about the Red Sox? I can't imagine it's going to be very positive.
I don't think it would be that big of an issue because at the end of the day, money talks. And if they, say we'll pay you X amount of money and it's satisfying for him, they could work out a deal.
Now, will he have the Sasaki designation or will he come over as a pure free agent?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Because if it's the same situation as Sasaki, then money doesn't super talk in that situation. And I think that is where it becomes much more of an issue with how the Sox have treated Yoshida. Because if all things weren't equal, I think that the Red Sox would have been in on Sasaki a lot more than him not even taking a meeting with them.
But I mean, they would have to overpay for Murakami. I think like that's pretty clear. It would have to be a massive overpay if he has other suitors in the majors.
So Sasaki is he's pretty young, and I just looked this up on MLB. He won't be subject to international bonus pool restrictions when he's posted.
Okay, so I think that does make the Red Sox much bigger players in that situation. I think that that's a potential even if Devers plays first, because now that this is on the rundown and we'll get to it much later in the season, I assume. I think that Alex Bregman is probably pretty likely to opt out at the end of this season with the way he's been playing. And so third base may be open anyway.
Murakami can play third base, first, and DH. So there's some versatility there with him.
Yeah. I think the question with Bregman is another team going to give him $40 million?
I mean, I think that that's going to be a real question. I think that we do need to see how the rest of the season
locking him into an actual deal that's not filled with opt-outs at some point during the season. Because even though it's been a season of peaks and valleys, he seems to be happy here. He seems to enjoy playing for the Red Sox. And I think that if John Henry kind of approaches him with like, hey, how about we lock you in for $5 for $200 or whatever, I think that he takes that.
I mean,
wouldn't John Henry
effect.
Yeah, I was going to say, wouldn't John Henry send Cora to do that, basically?
Yeah.
I think
when Cora takes over the GM spot after they fire Craig, I think it'll be pretty easy.
I mean, maybe he'll be good with AJ Hinch, but I think it was the core relationship that really got where he derived his value, or currently derives his value.
Yeah, I think so too. That seems to be I think that's the main driving force that brought him to Boston. And I think that ultimately he would prefer to spend the end of his career in one spot as opposed to playing for a year in Boston and then going the free agent route again. And while I think that his offers will be better than they were this year, I don't know if like the Dodgers will come calling for Alex Bregman, a situation where you can almost guarantee a World Series ring, which is what he has pretty much stated he's after, is he wants to continue to win. I think that Boston offers him a good chance to do so, as long as they can kind of get the internal rifts under control and call up the prospects that need to be playing in the majors because they have nothing left to prove in the minors.
Well, and I think also there's a factor. I think that also kind of has had a big pull of bringing Bregman to Boston, and getting to put on the same uniform as your hero. I'm sure that is like kind of a big deal, but I think that keeping that uniform on for the rest of your career, I don't know, hopefully that is also still a pull. And if Pedroia has any type of relationship or is able to talk to him about it, maybe that'll also help.
Absolutely.
I God knows the Red Sox just lost huge to Detroit, so it's not like Detroit doesn't offer a path to the World Series for him.
Just
perhaps,
a terrible stadium.
Yeah, but
What? Whoa! I won't listen to Comerica Park slander.
For Bregman.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know you were so invested in Comerica. Okay.
It's a great ballpark. You
I've heard that from many people.
Yeah, it's just lots of nice design touches throughout the stadium, and great food too.
Yeah, it is
pretty easy to
unfortunately
keep things nice when there's like 40 people that show up to the games.
Whoa, shots fired.
But I don't know if, do the Tigers have the pieces to, make a consistent play for the World Series? It feels like, depending if their pitching gets sorted out, maybe. But, the Red Sox took a big step in extending Garrett Crochet and to making themselves look a little bit more like contenders, at least in my eyes right now, than I think the Tigers are long term. So there will be that to consider for him. And then, I guess there are other teams that could potentially come in and want Bregman, but it's a little bit harder to see the fit,
I think Boston makes the most sense for him for the rest of his career. I think it is the quote match made in heaven.
Yeah, definitely, especially for his swing and everything too. It's it's pretty good. Pretty good unless the Astros for some reason try to get him back. But even then, I'm not sure if anyone except Altuve really, is would be a big pull for him to reunite with there at this point.
Yeah.
So besides those couple of little details that have gone on in the past week, what else do we think about the Red Sox general performance over the last week or two?
Outside of today, I thought that it was. I thought that so far, like they looked like they had turned a corner.
Starting pitching wise, are you feeling good about
send Tanner Houck to the moon?
No, send him to colonize Mars with Katy Perry.
Yes, they seem like they would get along swimmingly.
Hey, I will not take any Katy Perry slander on this podcast.
Well, I got bad news for you. It's coming.
Yeah.
Teenage Dream is an amazing album.
I did see her at Warped Tour in like 2007, 2008. So
that's
that
amazing.
Was an experience. Yeah.
I'm really impressed.
We were all like, who is this and why is she here? But there's got to be, we've talked about this before, there's got to be something wrong with Houck's arm.
He had a couple of decent outings, though. He had strung together about
everything is still down.
3 good starts.
His velo is still down across the board. It looked, and I'm not obviously like I'm not a pitching person, like I don't, but it looks like he has no snap to his sweeper. Like it is just coming out of his hand dead. And so if you scrap that pitch, maybe that works. But so far.
Well, even if you, he can obviously still go out there and take the ball. But if you put him on the DL, what are the other options that the Red Sox have at this point?
It does look like Walker Buehler will be back next week. He was projected to come back this week, but it's been pushed back by a week. I don't know. I haven't seen Richard Pitt's timeline.
Right. I think that the whole being pushed back by a week makes me feel a little bit more worried about his possibilities, or, and then, Fitz still injured right now. Cutter Crawford still injured right now. So it feels like, are we going to bring Newcomb back to the rotation?
Don't say that.
I mean, Maddie doesn't even recognize him by that name, but he does. He is a pitcher who has started for us this season. So it feels like, would you rather have Houck or would you rather have Newcomb at this point?
Dobbins? I do
Yeah.
Dobbins.
Option
Yeah. None of the above.
It does feel like the Red Sox are slow playing Dobbins a little bit, not really giving. They seem to trust Newcomb more, at least, and that is weird. But I guess that could be an option.
As of 4 days ago, Fitz is expected back in late May, early June. He has thrown one bullpen.
Okay.
Actually, by this point, he will have thrown two.
All right. Well, that's a start, I guess. But so that's not really a short-term fix, but you expect if Buehler comes back, if Fitz is ready to be in a rotation, then you think there's serious talk about how either exiting the rotation or going on the injured list?
I think he's got to be the man out.
Do you think that the Red Sox trust Fitz more than they trust Houck?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well,
I think that I think we know who Houck is at this point. Sorry, Maddie, I didn't mean to
no, you're
cut you
good.
off. But I think that we know who Tanner Houck is. I'm done with it.
Yeah. Fitz hasn't given up at least 10 runs in 3 innings this year. Twice.
Yeah. That was Red Sox history the first time it happened. And now we've made history again.
I'm looking at the teams pitching ranked by WAR. Crochet is obviously first, and the second pitcher then is Sean Newcomb with 0.8 WAR. With 5 starts.
I mean,
or no, 5 innings pitched, minimum playing time. So, which is
bring him back.
Crazy to think about.
Is it crazy to say that I think that his role in the bullpen is actually like exactly where he needs to be? I think that he's kind of stepped into it already. I don't want to see him in the starting rotation ever again, but I think that he works because Garrett Whitlock is obviously not the 2-inning guy anymore that they wanted him to be. His blow-ups have all been in that second inning of work. I think that Newcomb could be the 2-inning guy.
I mean, Newcomb has always been a bullpen arm. This has been kind of an experiment to get him to be a starting pitcher. So I think that they're like other experiments before him of Whitlock, I don't know, going back to Daniel Bard. Sometimes it just doesn't work, moving people to the rotation. But it does appear that Newcomb is thankfully not going on the Daniel Bard track after being a starting pitcher, and instead, is going to back to a reliever. So I wouldn't be surprised. And if you're breaking down the Red Sox pitching WAR, I'd be interested to know what Newcomb's WAR was as a starter versus as a reliever. Because I wouldn't be surprised if he's getting some of that WAR, at least, is from his relief appearances, not from starting.
Yeah.
And everyone else, unfortunately, it feels like everyone else has been, injured or Tanner Houck at this point. So it's
Bayo probably just now had enough innings to qualify.
Yeah, Bayo has. Yeah, and that's what I mean. There's been no one that's pitched, a full season up until now, besides Crochet and Houck. And Houck obviously is not doing well.
Do we think that we could see a Houck DFA if Buehler comes back and shoves and Fitz comes back and shoves?
Does Houck have still have options? He's still pretty young, and we didn't shuffle him up and down that much before he just kind of became a staple in the rotation. So he might actually still have options.
He has 2 left.
Yeah. So I mean, I think you would be like, things would have to be going very badly for them to do that, because I'm not sure you can send him down and have him. One, I'm not sure how productive that would be for him. And 2, I wonder if that would like put a really bad taste in his mouth for the organization. But that's a possibility, I guess,
He's
because I think that they
eligible next year, which I think is going to be interesting.
He went through arbitration this year. Or 2024, 2025.
Yeah, he did get the 3.9. I think that number as it stands right now goes a lot lower next year.
Well, he's a guy who's shown that he can be a good major league pitcher before, obviously, how badly it's gone so far this year. So I don't think the Red Sox want to, ruin that too much, because it's not like they've produced a ton of great arms. Bayo, obviously, we all know how much Alex loves Bayo, but besides that, the Red Sox haven't really been producing a lot of great starting pitchers. So I think that they want to rescue this relationship. So I think you would see him go on the IL with some sort of like, vague kind of injury to try to get him back where they want him to be before you see him sent down or DFA'd.
I think an IL stint is very likely, whether it's like a phantom IL, like, hey, head down to Fort Myers for a little bit, try to figure out what's going on. Was it the Jays that did it with Manoah last year?
Manoah, yeah.
Where he just lived at their spring training facility for half the season. I don't think that we're at that point, but I don't know if we're super far off either.
I mean, we know that you're at that point, but yeah, if the Red Sox as a whole are at that point, is sort of a difference.
And I like it comes off as I hate Tanner. Like, I like Tanner. He's a fairly local guy to me, so it's awesome to see him playing for the Red Sox, and last season to see him do well for half the season. But as of right now, it looks like that was a major outlier, and what we had seen in the past is who Tanner actually is, and maybe he hadn't turned the corner we thought he had.
I remember in 2020, like being fairly excited to watch Tanner Houck when he like first came up, and thinking that he was actually like pretty good. So I mean, we've seen him multiple times, I think, be good or be like an interesting pitcher. I think that I don't think he's like a number 6 man in a rotation kind of thing. Like,
no, I think his ceiling's a number 3.
Yeah. I think
we're
that
trying
maybe
to expect him to be a number 2.
Well, I think the hope for this season probably was that he was going to be a number 3 or number 4, right? Because you have to assume that they thought Crochet would be a number 1. They were hoping that Buehler or Bayo would kind of.
I think that they thought Houck would be the number 2
and 3. You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, they thought he would build upon last season and go off.
Instead, he's gone the other way.
Okay. I really thought that they would have thought that Bayo.
I think that Bayo has the stuff to be an actual number 2.
Yeah.
And if this season continues the way it has been going for him, I think that that's a pretty open and shut case that he is your number 2. But I think they wanted Houck to be the number 2 guy, and Crochet Jr. a 1-2 pitch or a 1-2 punch. And I think right now, yeah, if you've got a healthy rotation, Houck's your odd man out.
Speaking of a healthy rotation, what do we think of Giolito so far? Because Giolito's first game I did see, and it was good, very good. And then What do you guys think of his second game?
Fever dream.
He
was
only
not
gave
good.
up 2 hits. Oh wait, yeah, no, against the Royals. Yeah, I think, yeah, he's looking good so far.
Well, that was his third start.
Yeah, his second start.
His second start was, yeah, no bueno.
Exactly, fever dream
was sort of Tanner Houck-esque, you might say.
It was Maddie's cold game.
Start. Oh yeah. So I mean, it's do we think that he is who we've seen in his first and third start, and the second is just sort of an outlier, or is he going to be up and down sort of all season, depending on?
It looks like he's fixed whatever was wrong with his slider in that second game. I want to see another start or two where the slider isn't just a balloon in the middle of the plate. But if that's the case, then I think that on a good, like, his ceiling at that point is a number 3 starter for this team, and I think that that's perfect.
Wait, so would you think from what you've seen of him and what you've seen of Buehler, you would take him over Buehler right now?
I think Buehler has the higher ceiling. I mean, for all intents and purposes, Buehler's the number 2 right now.
Okay.
When everybody's healthy, I think that Bayo can take that spot probably within the next start or two. But if Buehler's your 3, Giolito's your 4, or vice versa, I don't think that's a bad situation to find yourself in.
Yeah. And then I guess, we've really covered the rotation, but what are we thinking about the bullpen?
Chapman seems to have the closing role locked up at this point until there's a reason to not hand him the ball in the 9th.
And I mean, he hasn't been bad.
No, I just wrote a piece on him today. He's really kind of rediscovered the fountain of youth. His fastball is the fastest he's thrown it since 22, I think. It's getting 3 more inches of rise. His 4-seamer is getting 3 more inches of rise than every other left-handed pitcher in the majors, which I think is contributing to some of his inaccuracy with his spots. But I mean, he reached back and dialed up 104.7 over the weekend, which is the fastest pitch in recorded Red Sox history and has so far as the fastest pitch this season in the majors. So to be able to do that in your 16th professional season is pretty impressive.
Obviously, even to throw as hard as he did, for the past couple of seasons at his age, at this point in his career, has been sort of amazing. But to be able to dial up those kind of numbers and, hold some sort of Red Sox record is pretty incredible.
He said after he signed that he's always wanted to play for Boston. And, I think that's a thing that a lot of people say when they sign with the team, but he seemed very legitimate. As a kid, this was the team that I wanted to pitch for. I've always wanted to be here. So you wonder if maybe that gave him an extra jolt of confidence to get back to where he used to be. Finally I'm putting on the uniform I've always wanted to wear kind of deal.
It's sure.
Whenever you say none of us expected this. That's one reason why I keep going back to that is maybe an idea is we all talked about him as a 7-inning, maybe an 8th inning setup guy.
Yeah.
I think there was a decent contingent that wanted Liam Hendricks to close games over him. At least 2 of us have been on the Justin Slayton train for quite some time. Which I'm not off.
Slay bomb?
Not off it.
Slay bomb? Is that who we're talking about?
I feel like that's just rude, Adam.
I'm on that boat now.
I think you can figure it out. I believe in Justin, but really, I mean, it had been a closer by committee kind of deal based on the lineup that was coming through in the 9th. But I think at this point, you hand the ball to Chapman and you let Slayton come in the 6th, which is what he's been doing. until he kind of figures things back out. I don't like. I mean, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but I don't like Aroldis Chapman as a person. I find it difficult to cheer for him, but
definitely.
If he's closing out games, I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at the baseball aspect of Aroldis Chapman as the Red Sox closer.
And I know that we had talked a little bit ago. The last episode, I think we had talked about Liam Hendriks and how he might be washed. I think was what was said, and he has turned it around at least a little bit. What are we thinking about him now?
I don't trust him in any kind of clutch role, but I think he works well as a 6-7 inning guy now.
Hendriks is looking good. If you don't count his first, start, which was a blowout. He hasn't given up an earned run since then.
Yep.
And I know he's being used for what was it, the 5-10 game when they had a huge lead, but still, I mean, he hit 96.2 miles per hour with his fastball, and I think that will go up as the season progresses, which is a good sign for him.
I would love to see him be a contributing member of the back of the bullpen. If you're working back into a platoon role, I think that he could stand to take over that platoon closer role from Slayton if that was ever an issue again. I really like him in the 6-7 inning. And I like giving him confidence in blowouts, whether it's one way or the other.
So what are we thinking about an 8th inning guy right now?
I think Whitlock makes the most sense, but only if you're running him in a 1 inning situation.
Yeah, I mean, he has looked good in 1 inning situations, but it doesn't seem
like Greg Weissert, I think, is kind of the sleeper candidate for the 8th inning role. He's performed very, very well this year. Kind of a continuation of when he got called back up last season and kind of flew under the radar with no earned runs in his last 10 appearances. And I think that his delivery mechanics are weird. I don't like how he gets both feet on the rubber. It weirds me out to see him turn his body like that. But he's effective.
I'm gonna have to rewatch his delivery.
He brings his left foot all the way back around and from in front to where his toe of his left foot is touching the rubber before he pitches.
Oh, okay. Maybe I have noticed.
It's a very unique windup, set for a windup. But I don't know. I think he could be your 8th inning guy with a pretty good amount of confidence.
Yeah, I do feel like it was starting to look more like a guy that Cora was having trust in, because I think that we've sort of run down the candidates, but I don't think that Whitlock, Hendriks, Slayton were kind of the guys who I thought would be 7th and 8th guys and have kind of faltered through, and so I think that Cert has a decent chance. And I mean, who else is even in the bullpen at that point? Do we have
Bernardino?
Yeah, Bernardino.
Wilson.
Wilson's a guy I always
got a lefty
because he has the most boring name in the world.
Yeah. If you've got a lefty closer, you don't want Bernardino or Wilson as your setup guy.
Right. But Bernardino, I think, is sort of the guy that if there's going to be, a couple lefties coming up in an inning, they seem to like him enough to turn to him in those kind of situations, as long as it's not the 9th. And he's been okay.
Yeah, I think he's played well this year. He's added a changeup, which he had started adding in last season, and it got knocked around like crazy last year. So I don't know if he's adjusted his grip a little bit or gone to the ever popular kick change now.
I was going to ask,
but
do we have a second kick changer on the team?
I'll have to look at the movement of it and see, because he hides the ball really well. Sometimes you can see hands and you can determine what's coming from the camera angle, but he's very good at hiding the ball. I will tell you that last year, when the Sox were in St. Louis, we were sitting in left field during warm-ups, and he was working on the changeup. It was before he had brought it into his actual mix, and it was not a kick change at the time.
Okay.
It was just it looked like a circle change out of his hand. I think that once he actually started building it into the mix, it's more of just a traditional changeup. It's not the circle change. But I'd be interested to see if he has put maybe a slight kick in it, because there is something different with the pitch this year.
Yeah. So that covers the bullpen. Anything else you guys wanted to touch on this episode?
I think that realistically, as we're kind of hurtling through May, and I say that because I'm a teacher and my last day of school is Thursday, and I'm very excited. But as we're hurtling through May, I think that we have to start realistically kind of looking at trade targets and who in the organization can be traded away to upgrade the actual Major League roster in a way that puts them in a position to hopefully overtake the Yankees and win the AL East. We have a run of games coming up in a week and a half against the entire AL East for the most part. It goes like New York back to Boston for Tampa, and then New York at Boston. So we have like a 9-10 game run where we can put some distance between ourselves and every other team in the division. And I think that you've got to start looking at trade targets. And I know we talked a little bit earlier that right now there's no like big first baseman available on the market, but come a week from now, I think you'll start to see things start to pop up. And I think that the Brewers will have to make a decision on Rhys Hoskins, and I don't see him being in Milwaukee past the trade deadline, and I would not hate that deal to Boston. Speaking of the Brewers, Boston caught a lot of crap for the Quinn Priester deal, and he has looked terrible for the last few outings. So just want to put that out in the world, that maybe Craig Breslow knows what he's doing. Except when it comes to Rafael Devers. But so that'll be something to watch. But I think that here in the next few episodes we need to start breaking down some potential trade candidates and who on the roster could be packaged out to bring in Paul Goldschmidt from the Yankees.
I guess like my question to you guys is this an enjoyable season so far? Maddie's reaction says no.
I mean, just the Casas injury. I don't like how the organization's jerking around Rafael Devers. They kind of wasted his prime between his 24 to 27 age seasons. They didn't build, a strong team around him, and during that time, he posted an average of a 132 WRC plus and 16.8 total F4, and now he's expected to bend over backwards for Craig Breslow not building any first base contingency.
I think that's all incredibly valid. I guess to answer your question, Adam, like in the hierarchy of things that I'm passionate about, baseball comes like just after my family. So like in that sense, like, yes, I am very excited that we get to watch baseball every night. I've made it a point for the last several seasons to try to watch all 162 games. I will fall short of that this year because I was incredibly busy over the weekend and did not decide to make a burner email to get FanDuel Sports Network to watch the Royals because they're blacked out on MLB Network in my area along with the Cardinals. So I'll fall about 3 games short when it's all said and done. But I mean, my bold prediction before the season was that the Red Sox will win the AL East, and I still believe that will happen. There are things to be concerned about, just like Maddie, you just said, like the Devers situation, the Casas injury. Like, there are things that I am unhappy with this team about, but at the end of the day, one of my favorite things to do is to sit down and watch Red Sox baseball. And it was that way in 2020 when the team was complete ass, and it will be that way from here on out. Just because I love Red Sox baseball.
Yeah, I think for me, I have been really excited to watch Garrett Crochet starts.
Yep.
Bayo starts have creeped into that too.
You can join the train. There's room on the train for everybody.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I've been driving it for a while.
So those two things have excited me about the team. And I still think that, watching Devers hit, watching Bregman hit, watching some of the speed on the base paths has been really exciting as well. But I do think that the, in the offseason, the signing of Chapman that we just talked about was kind of a little bit of a bummer. Then how they've been treating Yoshida has been kind of a bummer. And now, no matter where you fall on the Devers train, this situation has also been kind of a bummer. And I think that is really starting to like wear on me as far as, really getting amped for Red Sox games. Maybe not Red Sox games as much as just like amped for the organization as a whole,
I've gotten to the point where when I see like a notification on my phone that's a Red Sox notification and it's not around game time, I'm anticipating negative news.
Right. Yeah. It feels like there's a lot of negativity around the team. And it's a weird situation because, even after tonight's terrible loss, we are still a game over 500, but the feeling that I have about the team is of a losing team, Mm-hmm. It feels like we shouldn't be, second place in the division. It doesn't feel that way to me, at least. And so I think that's why I asked the question, because I had to look up the standings. Obviously, I told you I haven't been watching Red Sox baseball for the last week. Not because of anything I'm saying now, any negativity around the team. I just didn't have internet for God only knows how long. But the point is that I had to look up the record because it feels like a losing team right now, mm-hmm. and we're not, and that kind of surprises me. That they say that winning cures all ails, but in this case, it hasn't really,
Yeah. There's been no extended winning streak that you can be like, okay, I see what's going. I see the plan. I see everything's falling into place. Yeah, you're rattling off 2 to 3 games at a time, and then losing 14-2 to a team that arguably you should beat.
Yeah, and
the Tigers are good. Not to discount the Tigers,
right?
Or the AL Central as a whole, Brock. But
yeah.
But
I was gonna say Brock was gonna disagree with us. I knew that was coming.
But the thing is, and it's not encouraging, is up to this point the Red Sox have had the easiest season in professional baseball. They have played the most sub 500 teams out of every other team so far.
Wow.
And things aren't looking great. Now you hope that they rise, that they're a team that has, they play down to a level and they can rise to a level. But I think that it was great to see them take 2 of 3 from the Royals. The Royals are a legitimate team in the AL. And
this isn't just a Missouri bias on your part.
No, because I don't care about the Royals. You will find out that I have no loyalty to the state of Missouri whatsoever when it comes to sports. I never have. I was at the McGuire 62 game in a Sosa jersey. So
and you came out of that alive?
I did. I did get threatened as an 8-year-old. But that probably explains a lot. But you know, I have no loyalty to Missouri teams at all. So no. But I think that the Royals are a legitimate organization coming into that series. They had won like 15 of their last 18. And so I really hoped that was like the turning of the corner. And then, you know, if we come out guns blazing for the next 2 games against the Tigers, then sure, everybody has an off night every now and then. But it seems like the Red Sox off nights, one, coincide with Tanner Houck starts, and 2, happen to be nights where the other teams score almost 20 runs.
Yeah, I think that is part of the feeling that I'm getting about the team is just the fact that there are a lot of blowouts. It feels like when they lose, it's not like a heartbreaking 1-run loss kind of thing. It is a lot of the times it's like this game was not competitive from the very early innings kind of thing. And that's it's a little disconcerting.
You know, Bud Black just lost his job after a 21-0 trounce. So
yeah.
Now there's much bigger issues in Colorado than there is in Boston, but I
mean, thank God, you know. I can't imagine what Talk Rocks is, you know, saying about the Colorado Rocky season because
Did you guys see the surgery that Chris Bryant is having?
No.
They are severing nerves to his spinal cord because he is in such constant back pain.
That does not sound good.
We talk about Casas and his potential career ending. Like, the spine is a major part of baseball.
Yeah, I just feel so bad for him. His career trajectory has been so strange, you know.
All of that 16 Cubs team.
Yeah.
You talk about the weird, like, it's like they were all snake bit except for Schwarber.
Yeah, Schwarber's the only guy I was going to say. Like, somehow,
and they, like, you know, that front office caught so much crap when they started cutting ties because Javi Baez was first,
right?
And they're like, "How dare you let Javi Baez go?" And then until this season, look at what he's done in Detroit.
Yeah,
Rizzo is out of the game. Chris Bryant is, for all intents and purposes, out of the game. Schwarber's the only one playing meaningful baseball at this point.
Yeah. It has been a really strange ride for that, you know, like young controllable hitting core that they had. It hasn't gone well since then. And I think about that often too. Whenever I think about the Rockies, which is not often at all, but every time I think about Chris Bryant, I'm like, God, happened to that team? That was supposed to be like the beginning of a dynasty. They arrived a season earlier than everyone expected, kind of thing, and then it was just like it fell apart quick.
When I was in Vegas, a guy took the over, and I don't remember what the season win total was for the Rockies at one of the sports books that I was at. And I remember telling my wife, I was like, I don't think he realizes how bad the Rockies are going to be this year.
Yeah.
And they're on pace to break the worst team in baseball record a year after it was broken.
I know. Yeah. The stratification of baseball records right now is really like alarming at like how bad the Rockies and White Sox are. It's just they're just two historically bad teams. You know, it's sort of incredible that
maybe the new Pope can get some higher powers to go into the White Sox.
I was gonna say, when are we going to see a Red Sox fan Pope? Because, you know, I mean, Boston is a pretty Catholic city. You would think that we could get someone.
He would be a saint within like the first couple of weeks.
I would hope so.
I'm surprised Michael Jordan isn't one yet.
Well, I mean, do we know that he's a Bulls fan, or is he just he might just be a baseball guy, you know?
It's possible, but
I mean, I'm pretty much just a baseball guy at this point in my life. So I can imagine if you are ambitious enough to try to be Pope, maybe you only have room for one sport.
That's true.
Okay. And well, we've gone way off the tracks now. Let's wrap it up.
Thanks for listening to Talk Sox podcast. You know, we had to take a week off last week, but we'll hopefully be back next week with some more positive news than major knee injuries and forcing your all-star former third baseman into a new role that he doesn't want to play. But thanks for listening. We do appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe and, comment on Talk Sox, and we'll talk about whatever you comment, even if it's about Masataka Yoshida playing first base. I'm not going to let that go. But seriously, thanks for listening. We appreciate it, and we'll catch you guys next time.